Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today I have a very, very special guest. And that guest is the Airbnb queen. Can I call you that? Oh, she's stepping back saying, no, that's not me. No, but I have such a pleasure of having Alexis Ruffin here out of Flint, Michigan. And I'm really excited, Alexis, to have you in the lab here, as we call it, because we're here and we've never had an investor on the show who actually specializes in Airbnb.
Wow.
So you're actually our first guest, and I know that people are going to be itching to hear the questions that we ask to get the responses, because it's a very niched real estate. But before that, let's take a step back. First of all, welcome to the lab. And we want to go back. Okay, who is Alexis Ruffin? Because I'm always a big fan of, I believe that your reflection of your business is a reflection of who you are. I truly believe that. And so I always like to kind of understand the trajectory. So who was Alexis Ruffin before, and who is Alexis Ruffin today?
Alexis Ruffin before. Okay.
Take me back. Take me all the way back.
Take you back. Okay. I am, as you mentioned before, from Flint, Michigan. I am born and raised here. I attended Michigan State University. Let's go. Spartans. So I have a degree in supply chain management there. I also am a collegiate athlete. I ran track for Michigan State. So I did that after graduation, and I went into the corporate world. So I have worked for Nestle Foods out of California. After that, I worked for Accenture Consulting. So I did consulting at the Defense Logistics Agency in Columbus, Ohio. And most recently, I worked for Kelly Services at their headquarters outside of Detroit. I was a buyer there. And after, the recession, I started my real estate journey. So I have been doing real estate for 12 years now. I am what I would consider to be a rehabber. So I purchase the ugly house on the block and I make it beautiful again.
Nice.
At that point, I rent it out. So right now I have started my venture with Airbnbs, and I've been doing that for a year or so now, and I'm excited about that, and I'm expanding that portion of the business.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, Alexis, because I want to make sure that we hear. First of all, you're in the lab, and the lab stands for true practitioners who experiment different things throughout their journey. That's what it is, and so that's what the real estate experiment is. We've experimented a lot of different things. Yes. So you are a true practitioner because what I like to hear is obviously, you came in. First of all, I love my student athletes, because it says a lot, and that's who I was as well, so I can connect with you. But you went to the corporate world, and then you started investing, right, in rehabbing, and then you niched into Airbnb. And I think that's important because you'll be able to kind of help us out understand from a different lens. So let's transition. You're a year into this thing. You've been doing real estate for over a decade now, right?
Yep.
So tell us, why Airbnb when you were doing rehabbing? Is that all you were doing, or were you also doing buy and holds?
Nope, just rehabs, rehab to buy and hold. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're doing, okay, cool. So that I'm glad we're talking about. So you're rehabbing, and then you're not flipping. You're actually rehabbing. You're doing like a burst strategy per se.
Yes.
Buy rent. Okay, cool. So let's talk about that. We always talk about the grass is always greener. There's a lot of different opportunities in real estate. It's a huge umbrella. You can do so much.
Right.
What got your attention with Airbnb?
Honestly, the growing popularity, of course, but I wanted a new challenge. I'm not even gonna lie. I wanted a new challenge. And with that popularity, I thought to myself, that might be something that I can do. So I did a lot of research about what type of people visit Flint, and I noticed that Flint, Michigan has the highest amount of colleges and universities here in the state. So just with that knowledge alone, I knew that I had something. So I started with one. I've been doing it for about a year. I have been staying pretty full, pretty consistently. So I have not had any downfalls with that. And now I am looking to expand.
Okay, so let me take a step back because I heard something key here. So I heard college and I heard Airbnbs, but I'm actually not necessarily sure that I understand how they go together. If you had told me maybe hospital, like I know we talked about this offline before, maybe people are staying for long-term healthcare or healthcare professionals, I understand. But how did you take the correlation of college and Airbnb and put it together?
I knew there was a need for professors. I knew there for parents coming, and I knew there was a growing, expanding, the university was growing. So say for instance, I didn't have a need at a particular, right. So no one needed a particular Airbnb because there's pretty much not anything happening. Well, I always knew there was going to be a college student that's going to need somewhere to stay. Here in Michigan, or here in Flint, we have a college here that does 3 months and 3 months on, 3 months off. So they take 1 semester of school and they do an internship for a semester. And then the new student comes, or another student comes back, does another semester in school and does another semester of internships. So there's a constant turn of people. There's also every semester, you never know, there might be an influx of new students that just came from a community college or may have graduated in the middle of the year, and now there's another, the rotation. So I knew there would be a rotation of people coming in and out the city for different reasons, particularly for education, but of course there's going to be your local hospitals, professors, new businesses downtown. But my primary focus for when I started was the education industry that's growing here locally. So
okay, so this is interesting because, and this is why I love having people like you on the show, because it opens up my mind. Just like I'm sure if you're listening to this, it's opening up my mind, because originally I'm thinking, okay, I hear colleges, traditional models. Yeah, okay, well, just lease, right? Just your traditional lease. I think there's more knowledge to be discovered and dug up here. Why is it important for you, or maybe I'll ask very directly, why not just do a month-to-month model? Is it the same thing, Alexis, or is there an advantage that we're not maybe even considering as to why you may want to do Airbnb in those areas versus doing a traditional lease?
The month-to-month model I have used in the rental industry.
Okay.
This is different. So this is more longer stay, business travel. So it's a different clientele.
Can you define longer when you say longer to a listener? That could be subjective.
That's a good question, because even though it's short term, it's not really short. You know what I mean? So you're in a long short term rental business. The mid range.
So tell us, what is that mid range like? What is that number?
So those are for individuals that may be staying a month, maybe staying 2 weeks, maybe staying for 2 months. I've had somebody stay for 2 months, a month and a half, for 2 weeks.
So I'm hearing flexibility. Is that the word that you're going for? You're trying to cater people who are looking for flexibility, so therefore your Airbnb actually looks more promising to them, because there's it sounds like you're covering this gap in the marketplace, this gray area, right? Am I correct? Did I get you? I got her business model, y'all.
Right.
I got it. Right. Cool. So I got you. I dissected you in the lab. Okay, this is very interesting. So you started this, and I guess, was there plan B, like worst case scenario, I had already rented this place, so I'll just go back to month to month? How did that experiment phase transition?
Well, obviously the exit strategy is you can always rent it, you can always sell it.
That's a good problem to have. Those are great options, by the way.
Those are absolutely great money-making options. With this one, that basically, and I want to go back to your question about whether or not doing a month-to-month, especially for student housing, it's a different experience. There's student housing here, and you basically have a bed, a dresser, a desk. What I offer you is more of a comfort of home. So you come in, it's that gray area of a hotel and a dorm life. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of mushed together.
Okay.
So there's a little bit more to it. I started out with the idea that it could possibly be student housing. It could possibly be long-term housing for a nurse or professor or anything like that. I started out that route. I have not had one student. Every person I've had have all been business travelers. So after noticing that, I felt like that was the obvious route to take, and that I should continue to focus on that need, because that need is funneling my business, and to continue to search for more people who needed that service.
Okay, so first of all, to all Experiment Nation out there, the reason why I love it, we're not just experimenting blindly here. What you had, Alexis, is you had an idea, which we all do. It all takes us there. But then as you're into the lab and into the experiment, you take the data and you start adjusting with respect to the marketplace, right? Yes. So that's so interesting. So you went into it thinking, okay, college, Airbnbs makes sense. And now all of a sudden you get all these professionals, and now you start doubling down. Now, was that the first initial experience? Because I think what's important too, sometimes we have some success with what we think is going to work, and then it transitions into something completely different. So for you, was your first booking, I don't know if you recall, was it a professional or was it a student? I think you said you never had a student, I think, right?
Never had a student. My first booking was actually a traveler that came for one of the local festivals.
Okay.
So I also experimented with the length of time. That guest came for the marathon race that we have locally.
Yep.
So with that reservation, she stayed 3 days. So from that 3-day, I did some analysis on more of the short-term ones, and noticed that the turnaround and you having to do more touches, I would say, as far as going in, making sure things were the way they were supposed to be, having your cleaners come in and all that stuff. It was better for me to have a 2-week stay, a month-long stay, a 3-week stay, than to cater to that small niche of people that are coming for weekend festivals. Well, whoever's coming in to coordinate those weekend festivals, they can stay with me, because they're going to be staying longer term. So those are the type of people that I wanted to come in, the relationships I was trying to build, so that when they came back, they would think of me first as a place to stay, versus just the weekenders, or I'm just coming to stay at night and check on my daughter and go back home. I wanted more of a stable type of guest. So I experimented with those days as well.
So this is interesting. I want to ask you a question on that comment, because you came in with experience in real estate already, and then you kind of started opening up this niche. So we all know that who is in your property is just as important as, knowing who not to have in your property. So Absolutely. With this new model, I'm hearing a lot of good gems, and I wanted to make sure they don't slip through the cracks. Okay. With this new model, were you going to be picky at first, or were you going to just kind of see what's stuck on the wall? Do you recall that? And maybe I should be very clear. So let me be very clear, maybe to be a little clearer for the audience as well who's listening, is what I'm trying to ask Alexis here as I'm listening to this is, did she just want to have the first person go in and kind of learn what she also didn't like from the experience? Or were you at first you know what, I'll just take who comes in and I'll build from it, or I will say no to this specific individual? Which one was it? Were you lenient in the beginning? Were you picky at first, or were you kind of just, no, I know exactly?
I want to say I was picky and lenient at the same time, because you're so eager to try out your model and see if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And you're still a little bit apprehensive because you've done all this work to try to make it nice.
Yeah.
So even though I was so excited, okay, I have my first guest, I was extremely nervous. I was constantly driving past the property, okay.
Make sure it didn't blow up.
Not really looking through the windows, but I just want to make sure everything's okay. No one has the door wide open, letting all the AC out the door, But, ends up working out perfectly. You just have to let go of the wheel and, see if you can really fly, so to speak. I don't know, just the handlebars, I'm trying to say, let go of the handlebars and see if you can really fly.
Yeah.
It was very nerve-wracking in the beginning. Now I'm used to it. Now I'm more comfortable because I have my niche and I know what type of person I'm going after. I'm very less, reserved and nervous about who's staying there.
So let's talk about that for a second, because that's exactly the perfect segue of what I wanted to ask you, Alexis, is, how much does it matter for a guest of the reason why they're staying to you? Is that, I guess, is that like the first date? I was like, wait, hold on. Why do you want to come here again? Like, how much does that matter?
It matters immensely. I am trying to cater to a certain type of client. So, like I said, if you're just coming to go to the Cannabis Festival, or if you're coming to basically party, I'm not the party house. So I try to kindly say, this is not the property that you might be interested in. You might want to look for something else. I apologize. I try to find the kindest way of saying this property caters to executive business, travel individuals who are here for work needs. So, and mind you, there are sometimes I've had guests that, like I said, come to check on their children at the local college,
Yep.
Or visit family at the hospital, which is fine. I'm just trying to stay clear of those who have intentions on partying or playing loud music. I don't want to get those calls from neighbors or parking in someone else's parking. Like, I want the the less stress as possible. Just enjoy the property, stay as long as you need to. If you have to extend, that's fine. If there's something you didn't think of that I can provide, I'm more than happy to assist with that. But the partiers, I'm not bringing beer to the doorstep. Like, I'm not doing that.
Come on, Alexis. Not even some cold beer.
Have to get that on your own. Sorry.
So how I'm curious, these filters, is that something that you can kind of do on your landing page as well? I know again, we say Airbnb, but really you're in the business of a lot of different front end, whether it could be, I'm sure there's a VRBO out there, or booking.com or Airbnb, whatever that case might be. But obviously people know Airbnb, so we'll say Airbnb. This is from a host perspective, are there filters or descriptions that you can put out there that you will help cater to your funnel and your typical audience, or is there any insights on that? Does that help?
Yes and no. I try to use wording in the title and description within the listing that says this is my target market, but obviously people have a certain idea of what that's going to look like for that target market. So they're like, oh, they, cater to executives. I know that's going to be nice. Let's see if she'll let me stay, just to go visit my college buddy over the weekend. So even though you have something listed there that says, we would like you to be the president of our local bank, come stay here. You know what I'm saying? You still have people who are like, oh, that's going to be a great place to stay. I know it's clean. I know it has everything that I'll ever need. Let's see if they'll let me stay, for 2 days just so I can go, around the corner and hang out. No, you can't stay at this particular one, but I'm sure there'll be one you can find.
Yeah. And just so I'm curious, again, you've been in the game for a long time now. Is it more lenient? I don't know whether it's Airbnb or any other third party out there. How often can you say no? Because I know there's been maybe some concerns about people saying no for the wrong reasons. Maybe they're not related to what you're talking about. So, how do you also protect the community and I'm curious as to how much power is in your hands to say no.
Are you asking if I have a guest that I'm not comfortable with them staying there? How do you?
Yeah, as in, I know you said you're very nice about it, but do you have full range of a flexibility of saying no just based on how you feel on that individual, or is there some metrics in place that also protect the buyer from? I think the biggest thing that was out there was like discrimination purposes, etc.
Okay.
How I'm just curious on a business to customer kind of relationship. How much power do these platforms give you?
That's a very good question. With Airbnb, you have no idea who the individual is. You can only go from what they type. So you just have to use the correct questions to figure out what their intent is for being or suggesting or wanting to stay at your place. So I try to use inquisitive questions just to get down to what people's true intent is. And then from that point, just advising them that this property might not be the best for what it is you're trying to do. I had a guest that wanted to have a girls' night. Okay, this property is not what I is not best for you. I just kindly let her know that I'm keeping this property open for individuals who have a business need for travel, or maybe they have a loved one in the hospital. It's not the party house.
Yeah.
So, and I believe she understood. I mean, as you said earlier, you're learning to say no. So I found the kindest way in this business of saying no, but in the future, if you want to come in town and, you have an interview, or, you want to come to the local Chamber of Commerce events or something like that, then by all means. But for your girls' night, I'm sorry, this is not the best place.
No, and that's good to hear, and I'm glad you explained it that way, Alexis, because I think it's really good to know that you do have control in your business. That's one thing that I'm always a huge believer on, but at the same time, you also don't want to be on the hook for being discriminatory of any kind, right? So and I think that's relieving for anybody who's listening out there who had that question, who may be thinking, well, how do I do my business? Do I want to do it without kind of crossing the lines? And it sounds like there's some good metrics in place for you, like not knowing how the person looks like, but by going by straight copywriting is good. That's awesome. So I want to transition into the bones of the business, because you talk a lot about the bones, the cash flow. So let's talk about the cash flow. How do you come up with the right price per night?
What I do, because you have to pay attention to the cash flow.
Yeah.
So what I do is base my per night on obviously what others in the area are doing in the hotels. But when you're focusing on the cash flow, you want to make sure that, say for instance, you, like with this property, I could always use it as a rental. Okay, so if it were a rental, how much would it rent for per night? That should be your base if it was a vacant rental. But it's not. It's furnished. It has Wi-Fi. Like, it has all the perks, So you go with what's comparable to that, which would be a hotel. So I go to the local hotel's website. How much are you charging per night? Go to the next town. There's not too many house sharing or Airbnbs, whatever you want to call it, here locally right at this present moment. So I'll go to a city over. Well, how much is yours per night? So you just try to gauge what it is and take that number and make sure it's above what it would be if you were renting it. Because, of course, we want to make money. On my properties, they're all paid for. So I have the luxury of having everything be positive cash flow because I own the property. But I just wanted to do a gauge of, say, for instance, if I had an investor who I had to pay for this property, how would that look? I want to try different scenarios just because going forward, I'll be using different scenarios to expand my short-term housing portfolio. So if I decided to do maybe a fourplex, how would that look? So I wanted to always keep in mind while I'm searching for the next property, what those numbers are. If they fluctuate for certain reasons, does it go up during certain times of the year? Does it not? I try to keep that base rate or gauge because I don't want to go into anything where I'm not going to be profitable. Obviously, things happen out of our control. We're in the shutdown phase right now, but I always want to keep in mind, okay, this is a business. It needs to be profitable. And what is that number? So that is how I do my per nights, is just by comparing myself to others who offer the same or similar housing, so I have a 2-bedroom, and that of a hotel.
Got it. So I know we talked a little bit about this offline, and it's important. you talk about knowing your numbers, and part of knowing your numbers is the expenses, which I think is going to relate back to where you actually choose to have your home, and your property. So let's talk about that a little bit. What kind of properties are you utilizing for your business, and is it strategic for you to have those kind of properties with your current business model?
The kind of properties I like to purchase for short-term housing are basically those with the least amount of maintenance, I guess it is.
Yeah.
I have a townhome and it's under obviously a condo association. So everything in the exterior is taken care of by the association. So I have no snow removal, no grass. If you want to plant a flower in the front yard or a wreath on your door, that's fine. But other than that, they manage everything. My entire focus has been on the aesthetic side and my customer service, which I think is great. As I go forward and I purchase more properties, I'm using that same model that I use there on other locations. So right now I'm working on another one that's in the general vicinity of the one I currently have, and it's a duplex. So I tend to double on the same location and not have to worry about any exterior maintenance or any snow removal, anything like that. I pretty much want to look for properties that give a similar feel to what I have already, because I know what works. So why not continue to do what works?
I love that about what you're doing, because while some people and some investors run away from HOA fees and condo association fees, whatever you want to call it in your state, it sounds like you're using it as a leverage point, where it's kind of like a property manager, like a partner that helps you just focus on the customer experience, not just fixing the lawn care and doing et cetera, all down the line, and you have a fixed expense. Let's talk about another expense that's big, though. You mentioned it before about the cash flow. Like, this might be more of a question for in your business, and to someone who may be listening needs to factor that in. How much of your mortgage are you factoring in? Are these property owned outright? And the reason I'm asking this question is someone might say, hey, well, how do I factor in the numbers based on what I owe monthly, just like, again, any other investor? Do you think that there's a difference in how you should assess based on if you own something outright versus if you need to make a mortgage payment?
Definitely watch your numbers. Cash flow is everything. We're not in the business of opening businesses to fail. So if you have a mortgage, definitely understand what your number will be if you have to pay, obviously, your note. You're going to have to pay, obviously, your Wi-Fi. You're going to pay utilities. And if your housekeeping, and if you decide to offer any additional things, like I offer, chips, popcorn, food, things like that, you're going to have to factor that in. And then you're going to have to make sure that you understand the profit on top of that. So always be aware. That's what I was saying before. When you're expanding or even starting, know your number, because it might be better off if you just did a regular rental versus an Airbnb because of that price. And then when you're shopping, you can shop according to that price. So, say for instance, you want to buy, I know a lot of people are doing the arbitrage, where you just get a rental and then you try the Airbnb out. I thought about that, but I'm not really sure that will work for my business model, because I need the number to be low. And I'm not sure what landlord will lower their rent amount because I want to open a business. They're going to, say, no, I'd rather go with the guaranteed however much money a month than to let you do it for this reason because you want it so low. So that's why I like to look for properties that I can either use private money on or, just cash out myself and do all my renovations and whatever and own it. But if you're in a city where it will work for you to use a rental property and do that, I know a couple people who do that and it works out perfect for them. That's fine. But in the instance that you have a mortgage, I would have to say your rent could probably be a mortgage. You just have to make sure that whatever that expense is, you're going to be profitable on top of that. So always
go back to the numbers. Know your numbers.
Yeah. Know what you're getting to. Absolutely.
So speaking of numbers, we got another one. in. It's the elephant in the room. It's the transitioning. And I think you prefaced this earlier where you talked a little bit about why you choose to do the longer side of the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the turnover when we're talking about management. And when I say management, I'm thinking more like cleaning, house cleaning. Like, is that I guess tell me about that. Is that something that factored into the the turnover expenses when a guest is going out, and how much of that is a big expense in your business?
It's not an expense for me. It's a number you can factor into your guest charge. So that
Okay.
expense is
Cleaning
passed
fees.
on. Yeah. That expense is
Okay.
passed on to whoever the guest is. So I don't have to worry about that. I just want to make sure that I am providing my cleaning service with a feasible amount. Like I don't want to lower my cleaning fee to something that isn't realistic and then I end up being the cleaner. Like that's not what we're trying to do here.
Right, right.
Just want to make sure that I have included an amount for cleaning that my cleaners are going to be happy to receive.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so let's get into the keeping it real segment here.
Okay.
What is the best advice you would give to an investor who wants to get into this Airbnb? And I know you mentioned there's some people who are renting or want to do arbitrage, or some people where it needs to make sense as a rental first before they get into it. And what advice would you give to, maybe in addition to knowing your numbers, what is it that final advice you would give to a new investor looking to get into Airbnb or one of those type of
the advice that I would give outside of making sure that you make money would probably be to make sure that you cater to your core client. If you are in a city where your core client might be the shorter stays where they just want to come in for weekends or they're coming in for a couple of days or whatever that is, make sure you cater your business, because it is a business, to your client. And maybe what you like to do is whoever pushes and is available for your date and you're open, that could be your business model as well. But I would just make sure you have a focus. I wouldn't go in and just be all over the place. I would definitely say, outside of knowing your numbers and making sure you're making money, is to definitely cater to your core client. That would be my advice.
Absolutely. So Sheffield Executive Housing, you guys are doing such a wonderful job. There's raving reviews online. How do you, Alexis, do it? Like, is it the team? Is it how close the assets are? Is it like your calendar? Like how are you balancing being a real estate investor, your business, Airbnb bookings, keeping clients happy? How do you manage all that for yourself?
What I've done is, for the rental business, I've outsourced and hired someone to manage that for me because I'm starting a new business venture. And so a lot of the Airbnb business that I am in right now takes a lot of my focus because I want to continue to have good reviews. I want to continue to stay occupied. I want to continue to do all the right things and make the right decisions going forward. So that is taking a lot of my attention right now. But I don't think there's a magic to it, to what I'm doing necessarily. But I do try to think ahead and try to make sure that client satisfaction is key, and not just having a box with a bed in the middle of it, or a cracker on the counter and saying feel free if you need a snack. I want to give them more of a home feel when they come into my property. So that is what I'm always trying to make sure I'm focusing on every time I walk in the door. Well, what do they think about my wallpaper? Well, what do they think about the way this seat is sitting over here in the corner versus sitting at the table? I always try to think ahead. So I think that has a lot to do with the reviews. I've had someone who stayed there and wanted a blender. Well, voila, there's a blender on your step. Just go to your step, and I was able to provide you a blender. So even though, it's different from the rental business where you just get the best tenant and you just cross your fingers and you hope they stay as long as they can. I am enjoying this other business where it's more customer based, and the satisfaction of getting good reviews and making sure everything looks nice is exciting for me.
That's very fulfilling. And it's so funny that, when you answer the question, you say nothing in particular, but then your answer is so particular. It is all the little things that do matter. So I think it's fascinating. It says a lot about why you're having a lot of success, which is beautiful. So talk about, and last, keeping it real section here. The last question I have for you is, what is the end goal, and what is maybe even your exit strategy? It sounds like, you're an entrepreneur at heart. You might have some other ventures. What are you thinking? Are you trying to build a portfolio and sell it? Are you thinking of just having all your properties bought outright? What is the goal for Alexis, just so we understand when we stay at one of your homes, what we're contributing to?
I love that question. My goal is to grow a brand around corporate travel, and I won't even say in Flint, Michigan. I intend to purchase properties outside of this city, into maybe other locations within the state and other states nearby is what my goal is. So I am working with an outstanding social media company, Invested Talent, and they are assisting me on expanding my social media footprint. So the end goal for me is to have a brand name around Sheffield Executive Housing, exechouse.org. You can find me there, and to absolutely see where this is going to go. I never would have known the success I would have had when I first started down this road, and I'm excited to see where it's going. So with that in mind, the end could never be.
I love it. Or the end is the beginning of a new journey, right? So
that's right.
That's fascinating. Right before I leave, I got to ask you these core rapid fire questions real quick. Okay. You seem like such a bubbly individual, very resourceful, very focused. So I got to ask you, what is the best habit that you think serves you every day, personally, like as soon as you get out of bed?
The best habit?
Yeah.
The best habit for me would be, that's a good question. What is the best habit? It was probably going to be checking the status. I like to make sure everybody's okay. So in this business, what's best for me is to always have a constant pulse on what's going on within the business. So when I wake up in the morning after I do my morning routine, what's next? What's next on the agenda according to Sheffield Executive Housing? What's next on the agenda according to my rentals? What's next on the agenda for management? What's next on the agenda for everything else?
I gotta cut you off. This is the project management coming right out of you right now. I can tell you the milestones, the timelines. You're just engraved in it. You're just, I love it. No, that's fantastic. That's really impressive. It sounds like you're making it. It's bigger than you. When you get up in the morning. So that's fantastic. Do you have a favorite book?
Right now, I just ordered this new book and it's sparking my attention. It's called Limitless.
Limitless? Who's it by?
I want to say the guy's last name is Quick, Kwik. It's called Limitless.
You'll have to check that out.
Basically how to focus your learning. So one of the things I want to do this year is try to learn as much as I can and retain it instead of just going over words. So it kind of talks about that. So that's one of the new books that has sparked my attention right now that I can't seem to put down. Yeah,
that's really interesting.
That one and the Brendon Burchard book.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That book. Yeah, amazing.
Like the YOLO book or something, right?
YOLO, high performance.
Yeah.
High performance. That book is really good.
We'll have it in the show notes for sure.
Yes, that book is
we'll
really
include
good.
that in there. That's awesome. Class A or Class C type of properties?
I am a Class B.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do blue collar properties around schools mostly.
Yeah.
When I do rentals, but for the short-term business, I want to stay around downtown.
Yeah.
Malls, food. Yep.
The good stuff. You want to be around the good stuff, right?
The good stuff.
So, the good stuff. Awesome.
Not the playgrounds.
Yeah. That's right.
But the malls.
That's awesome. Cash flow or equity?
Now that is a good cash flow.
Nice. Self-manage or outsource?
Outsource.
Nice. If you had one superpower in your business, what would it be?
Kindness.
Kindness.
Because you want to be treated.
Okay. If you could describe a successful investor like Alexis in one word, what would that word be?
Driven.
Gosh, so impressive. What question do you wish I would have asked you today that I didn't ask?
Oh, I think you covered everything. Yeah, I think you got it all. Some that I didn't even ask.
The reason I asked that is it's always an opportunity for you to maybe share something that I didn't ask you about that may have meant a lot to you or to your audience or to your new audience who are going to follow what you do. So you always have the opportunity to do that here in the lab. With that said, Alexis, where can the people, if they're not staying in one of many properties that you're doing a wonderful job of orchestrating, or if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to follow you, where can people find out more about you, Alexis?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn under Sheffield Executive Housing, or I can also be found under exechouse.org. Exec is spelled EXEC house.org.
And we'll be sure to have that in the show notes and any other links you'd like to share with the group. This was fantastic, and I cannot wait to see your growth and you take over the nation with the beautiful momentum that you've picked up in Flint, Michigan. So I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see more of what you have, and I'm sure the rest of the folks will do as well. Just like that, we are out.